policy issues that we're seeking feedback. For instance, under the 4 policy issues, we've got the numbers of skins authorized per operator, the licensing fees, what should the state charge for a license, the privilege fees, what will the state charge for the privilege of operating in the state, and then finally, licensing allocation. And specifically on this one, on both the tribal licenses as well as the limited wagering operators, it could be possible that we would have more qualified applicants than available licenses. So if anyone has any input on how they think the state should approach allocating those licenses if we were to end up with more qualified applicants than available licenses. Then we'll move into sort of 3 sets of issues. The first set contains internal controls, league data, servers and storage, and geofencing requirements. Issue set number 2 contains systems and platforms, integrity and security assessment, events and wagers, and then player accounts. And then the final issue set is where we discuss promotions and bonuses, accounting and auditing, patron disputes, debt set-off, and miscellaneous rules. And then if we've got some time left over, we'll go ahead and see if there are any other comments that have come up. You know, we really want to hear from as many people as possible, so we're going to kind of limit our comments here. We want to take your input, and to the extent possible, you know, we're not, and to allow more people to speak, we're really not going to get into sort of a question and answer period. So we've budgeted 3 hours for this. I don't know if it will require that. You know, the last couple of sessions that we've had on these subjects, they've been done within an hour and a half. However, if we're going long and it seems like we're going to use the full 3 hours, we'll go ahead and take a break at 2:30, and then for about 10 minutes, and then we'll come back. So with that, why don't we go ahead and open up the floor again? The first area that we'd like to get feedback on are on sort of those policies discussions. So if anyone has any input they'd like to give us on the number of skins, licensing fees, privilege fees, or licensing allocation, please go ahead and raise your hand, and one of our staff members will call upon you to make your comments. Any input on the issue of number of skins, licensing fees, privilege fees, or license allocation? All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to issue set number 1.
Looks like we have some hand raised, Director, starting with Josh Pearl.
All right, Josh, go ahead. You've got the floor.
Hi, good afternoon. Josh Pearl with Penn Interactive, online subsidiary of Penn National Gaming. With respect to the Act, it allows one of the qualified event wagering operators to create a designee who would otherwise become the event wagering operator. Just had a general question. If that is the case, would the local entity, whether that be a tribe or one of the other qualifying organizations, would they still be required to fill out any paperwork during the application process?
Yes, they would have to fill out a short application.
Great, thank you.
You bet.
Next up, David Miller.
David, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all very much. It's David Miller with the PGA Tour and TPC Scottsdale. So I just wanted to briefly comment on number of skins and just to say that our understanding throughout the legislative process was that there would be just a single skin available to each of the up to 10 sports organizations and 10 tribes that would qualify for a license. So that was always our understanding, is that you would only have up to 20 licenses and platforms in the state. And so, I don't know, to be honest, whether or not that a single skin market is better or worse for TPC Scots on the PGA Tour than a multiple skin market. But I do know that was certainly our understanding of the legislative intent. And we never understood that the PGA Tour and TPC Scottsdale could go and partner with DraftKings, FanDuel, Barstool, and so forth, and sell multiple skins. Just one skin was again our understanding throughout, and so that's how we also interpret the statute. And our request would be for that to be made clear in the regs that it is a single skin market.
Great, thank you, David.
Joe, you're up next. And for those who've already spoken, please lower your hand.
Yeah, thanks everyone. This is Joe Solosky with NASCAR. I actually also would like to speak about the number of skins. NASCAR is of the mindset and belief that this also was the intent to have a single skin in the state of Arizona. And we also would like to have clarification on that, on the number of skins, and that, going forward, that it is one single skin.
Thanks, Joe.
Matt, the floor is yours.
I believe Matt Olin. You might be on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead, Matt.
Okay. This is Matt Olin. I'm with San Carlos Apache. I have heard a couple of comments on the number of skins, and we initially saw in the first draft legislation when it was brought to the House that it did not contemplate more than one platform or one skin. But our position is it's very clear that was edited and changed, and our position is the legislation is very clear that it provides for more than one platform for a licensee. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Amy Lynn Pierce.
Thank you. This is Amy Lynn Pierce with the Diamondbacks. As somebody who was involved in the conversations about the legislation, I can say with 100% certainty that it was always our belief that it would only be one skin. There had been discussion about allowing a mobile operator and a retail operator, and that those could be two different operators. And that is something that's fine with us and something that was agreed upon with the entire group. But in terms of entry into that mobile market, it was always the belief that there would only be one skin allowed. Now, I believe that some of the operators have spoken on back end and technology stuff, and we're perfectly fine with allowing whatever needs to happen on the back end for them to run their technology. I'm not going to speak to that because I'm not knowledgeable enough on that. But in terms of the intent of the legislation, I'm confident in saying that it was always intended to just be one mobile platform, one skin. And so it's extremely important to us that be reflected and specified in the rules going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy Lynn. Any further comment on skins or licensing fees, privilege fees, or license allocations? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to issue set number 1, which is internal controls, leak data, server and storage, and geofencing. Anyone wishing to make comments on issue set number 1? Go ahead and raise your hand and our staff will call on you. Okay, seeing none.
David Miller, the floor is yours.
I guess I'm the chattiest person here. So, but yeah, I did just want to briefly speak on official league data on the and a few different points on it. I think the Section A of the league data provision, it includes a requirement that the official league data be timely, accurate, appropriate. And to me, I don't believe that I believe that is language that is inconsistent with the requirement that official league data be used. The statutory requirement, it just does not include those kinds of subjective standards. And so I do think that language is just inconsistent. At the same time, I do think it makes sense to establish standards for what is commercially reasonable terms. The statutory requirement does say that the league data must be provided on commercially reasonable terms, and we would suggest putting in place factors that really for the benefit of everyone, that the Department of Gaming could point to and evaluate for purposes of determining what is commercially reasonable terms, because that is somewhat of it's somewhat unclear on its face what that means. And so there are factors that the PGA Tour, the NFL, the NBA, MLB, and several of the operators have agreed to support. And so we would advocate for including those factors, and also just a more kind of comprehensive process for determining what are commercially reasonable terms, and for operators to kind of appeal to the Department of Gaming to determine whether or not that is being complied with.
Great, thank you, David.
Brant?
Hey there, this is Brant Iden with Sport Radar. Appreciate the comments made just now by David Miller, and Sport Radar would echo those sentiments in Section A as well as Section B of the league data provision. We'd suggest that the department look to potentially Michigan as one of the states that's outlined such commercially reasonable rate process for making a determination. As well as Mr. Miller articulated, Section B, we'd also like to see some metrics put around what those provisions could potentially be for an operator in this case of an opt-out. So would appreciate the department taking a further look at that, and happy to submit some of the language from some of those other states that we've worked in concert with our league partners on. Thank you.
Thank you, Brant. Okay, any more comments around league data, internal controls, server and storage, or geofencing? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to issue set 2, systems and platforms, integrity and security assessment, events and wagers, and player accounts.
Trevor Hayes?
Thank you. Forgive me if this belongs in the next section. It could go in one of two. But we had some concerns about Rule 19.4.134. There's a line that says that if there's a voided ticket, the physical ticket must be branded by the computer. We don't see that in other states. There's several states that have certified our technology, Iowa and Indiana and others without that. The way our system works is that as soon as it is voided, it's put into the computer, it is voided in the system. If we then had to go out and buy a Chatsworth style scanner that could then do it, one, that's additional work we have to do on our end and expense and put it in. But as soon as we uploaded the ticket after having that on it, it would then show that that bet is already void. That we believe that the system that we have in place already voids it properly without needing to have an actual physical stamp that says void on it. So we'd like to see that section removed.
Okay, great. Thank you, Trevor. And just for the record, Trevor, who do you?
Oh, I apologize. Trevor Hayes with William Hill Caesars.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any further comments on issue set 2? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to issue set 3, promotion and bonuses, accounting, auditing, patron disputes, debt set off, and any of the other miscellaneous rules that anyone would like to comment on.
Trevor, you're back up.
Thanks. Trevor Hayes again from William Hill Caesars. I think it falls under this one. We were just curious if there were going to be something in the regs that would say whether we can start promoting and marketing in advance of the launch date, and if we would have the ability to have people download and sign up for the app before it goes live, but that way when it goes live, they're already in. So will there be that possibility? And if so, can you please add it to the regs that allows for advanced downloads, even though it would still just be a dummy app, essentially. It wouldn't be turned on yet.
So Trevor, our intent is to allow that. We will, once we've gone through the rules, and we're also going to come up with an updated timeline. So I don't think this will actually be in the rules, but we will communicate to everybody what the timeline is and when we will allow that download.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Andrew?
Thank you. Coming in with rule, Andrew Winchell from FanDuel, rule R19-4-132 on the reserve requirement. There's a requirement that responsible parties maintain the reserve that is greater of 500,000 or the amount necessary to cover the event wagering liability. We would suggest just some clarifying language be added there to explain how the calculation of the outstanding event wagering liability, and that it be basically the sum of the player accounts, the aggregate amount of money held by the responsible party on wagers whose result has not yet been determined, and any amounts that are owed but unpaid on winning wagers, to be the form by which you calculate the outstanding event wagering liability. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. Any other comments on issue set 3? Or at this point, we've made some very good time through here. Any comments that folks want to make on any of the rules? Again, we're on issue set 3, but if there's some that you wanted to go back to, we can definitely do it at this time.
Andrew, you're back up.
Thank you. On rule reference 19-4-155A3, there's a requirement that the responsible gaming message that's included in advertising have the department's statewide toll-free crisis helpline number. We suggest adjusting this to be a toll-free number that's approved by the department. There are national hotlines as well as local, and while we understand it may make sense, especially for certain types of advertisements that might be physical in nature, for example, like a billboard in the state of Arizona, for other types of advertising like television and radio and internet that are put out, many of the operators are multi-state operators, and you start to see diminishing marginal returns by adding on to every potential advertisement every single state's individualized hotline, and then people might not know who to call. So the allowing for in certain media a national hotline like 1-800-GAMBLER may be a preferable way to address this requirement in advertising.
Thank you, Andrew. All right, any comments on any part of the event wagering rules?
JR, floor is yours.
Hi, thank you. This is J.R. Loera, associated with Fort McDowell. I just wanted to clarify a comment I made in an earlier session, actually, that the intent of the department is to issue an updated set of these draft rules, which will then also be open to public comment. Is that the correct understanding?
Yes, so we're going to take the feedback we've received, generate a new set of draft rules to put them out for public comment. Hopefully with this session, we've kind of identified and resolved any of the issues, and we'll put that out probably for a brief public comment period. Again, our goal is to have some final rules up and running by early July so that we can hit that September 9th go live date for event wagering. But we will update, once we've got that new draft of rules, we'll also update the timeline so people have a better idea of how all this is going to roll out.
Thank you very much.
Tolonia?
Thank you. Tolania Adams, Senior Policy Advisor at the Arizona State Senate. Will the second set of draft rules include the proposed licensing fee and the privilege fee?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further comments? And again, if you're on the phone and you'd like to be recognized, email public affairs, all one word, at acgaming.gov. All right. I'll give it till 1:30, and then I'll give my little closing remarks. But just remember that you can submit written comments until 11:59 p.m. tonight. And we appreciate everyone participating in today's comment periods. And if you were there on Friday, thank you very much. We're going to go through this information. We've been going through the information as we've been receiving it, so we can hopefully cut down on the time needed to turn around a draft. But like I said, our hope is to get a draft back out sometime this week, probably in the latter part of the week, with that updated time frame. And we'll also list out the opportunity for further public comment and just kind of how the rest of the licensing is going to roll out. So I'll give one last alibi. Oh, I think we do have a question.
Josh Pearl, your hand was raised.
It was, but then my question was answered. It was just around the updated time frame, more specific to the shipping of servers. So it sounds like we should expect that this week. Is that correct?
Yeah.
In terms of the timeline.
Yeah, that is our goal. So we'll have some of the, we'll have the rules as well as the timeline, and it'll talk about that as well, Josh.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for conducting these. We find them to be very useful, and hope you do as well.
You bet. Thanks. All right. Seeing no further questions, again, thank you all. Please feel free to submit any further written comments, and we will notify you when we've got a draft to put back out there, as well as the timeline. So thank you, everyone. Appreciate your participation.